Not my fault. Not my fault this time. Not my fault this time.
I'm blaming you.
No,
you're back. See, it's not
fault.
as easy as you think.
Not my fault. It was not my fault.
All right. Well,
not my
anyway.
fault. Sorry, everybody on YouTube. Not my fault. I was just saying how John gets everything technologically wrong. And of course, what happens when I'm back?
When you return.
When I return, it's still things go wrong.
Okay, here's what we're going to do because Jim is back. Football is back. And we've got good guests for you here today. We also have San Diego State UCLA tickets to give away. We'll do that today between now and 6 o'clock. This is for Saturday at Snapdragon Stadium. 4:30 kick time. Our pregame coverage will begin at 2:30. Bryce Miller from the UT will join us at 3:30. He's written, it was interesting because Bob Melvin specifically mentioned Bryce Miller yesterday postgame. If you missed what Bob Melvin had to say postgame, we're going to share that with you coming up in a few minutes. But he was like, yo, Bryce, you're spot on. Like Bob Melvin is agreeing with Bryce Miller, columnist, saying the MVP of the team this year is the fans. The manager of the Padres is saying, I'm with you, Bryce. It's not Manny. It's not Blake Snell. It's the Padres fans.
He sounded so just like
defeated.
I'm done. I am done. And I watched, or I didn't watch, but I kept track of the game yesterday, even though I was flying because I had a fantasy draft during my flight, so I had to buy Wi-Fi.
You bought Wi-Fi. I was wondering how you were doing that.
I had to buy Wi-Fi.
How much?
I don't want to say.
Okay, hold on. He doesn't want to say how much Wi-Fi was.
I don't want to say.
This was a cross-country. Yeah. What was the airline?
It was American.
Americans. I can see that being expected. Was it more than $20? It
was more than $20.
Wow.
It was a 5-hour flight. Well, no, it was like a 6-hour flight almost. Almost a 6-hour flight.
More than 30?
No,
it was like 24.
It was $29.
$29?
Sorry.
Wow. Was it good at least? Like, could you stream video? I think you could because you were watching the show.
During the middle, and nobody cares about my fantasy draft, but during the middle of it, the Wi-Fi wasn't working. So I had one of my picks auto draft for me. I was so mad.
You should have told the flight attendant, I need you to land. I'm in round 4. We need to land the plane.
If I don't land this plane, I'm going to end up drafting somebody I don't want.
Wait, where were we? Oh, yeah. Anyway, Bob Melvin.
Oh, yeah. This team, what is it? What's the term? It's defeated attitude. Like the attitude of this team, anytime you hear them talk, is they just feel so defeated. Every single one of these players, coaches, anybody involved with this franchise, they have this defeated tone.
I think you're thinking defeatist.
Defeatist tone.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. So, okay, Bryce Miller's going to join us at 3:30. He wrote about Padres fans being the team MVP. He also wrote about Keenan Kristen, San Diego State running back, nearly going to UCLA. So we'll catch up with Bryce Miller in about 25 minutes or so. Our betting expert, Dave Mason from betonline.ag, he'll join us at 4:30. Football returns. And I do have a question for Padres fans today. Are you more excited for the return of the NFL this year because of where the Padres are this September? Are you watching now? Were you watching a year ago when this team was heading for the postseason in September? Were you watching Thursday Night Football? Were you as, acutely aware of what was going on in the league? Reasons to watch the NFL. So again, Dave Mason.
John,
yeah.
They have a 0.7% chance of making the postseason still. There's still hope.
Well, I think it's at 0.5.
Give me a break.
So Dave Mason, betonline.ag, he will join us coming up at 4:30. But are you more into football this time around, Padres fans, because of the state of the Padres? I want to start here with Bob Melvin, and then we can go wherever we want. If you missed this yesterday, after I heard this, I was utterly, I couldn't contain myself after I heard this. This was Bob Melvin yesterday. Remember the Padres yesterday had 1 hit through 8 innings. Mm-hmm. If not for a 2-out RBI hit in the 9th inning, they would have been shut out. They lost 5-1. Here was Bob Melvin, at least a portion of it, about 3 minutes of Bob Melvin postgame.
like two different ones. So one that's running pretty good, one that has a lot of life up in the zone. Just enough breaking balls to keep us off balance. He was good.
Looked like it was more of a battle day for Michael today, but did his best to try to keep you in there.
Yeah, I mean, one pitch to Harper there, and it's still a run. I don't know how he got out of the first with only one run, but he tends to be able to do that. So it was a lot of pitches there in 4 innings, but just really one pitch away with Harper.
Just the one moment with Juan was the same thing with his hand.
Yeah.
Just kind of comes and goes, stinger.
It's the finger, so it hasn't, we haven't seen him do that in a while, but got him a couple times today.
I know why it happened and all, but could you go over the decision with Fernando and just what you thought there?
It's I'm just trying to get our hottest hitter up there and didn't want to play anybody too out of position, so he's all up for it. It's just lack of what we have right now.
So that's pretty exclusively just the situation, and you want to get Campy there, and it is something that probably wouldn't happen again in the future.
I hope not.
You guys are closing in on 3 million fans. Got close today. I think the next one will be. What do you make of kind of what they've meant to you guys this season? You got one homestand left.
It's been as amazing as last year was. It even seems more so this year based on the fact that we just haven't played well. But they keep coming out. It really is amazing. I think we broke a record for sellouts, and we still have another homestand coming up. So Bryce Miller wrote an article about how they're the MVP this year. He was spot on.
In this series, did you ever find yourself comprehending like where you guys are at now and where the Phillies are, and after you guys played that series last year and then the playoffs?
No, we're just trying to win games right now. Where there was a time and you're looking at the standings and we feel like one day it's kind of a roller coaster. We're just trying to win games right now. So we're not comparing ourselves to anybody right now. We're just trying to win games.
Was Zach maybe as tough as he was? Maybe even tougher than last October?
Yeah. Well, look, we didn't get too many good swings off him today. So, made him work a little harder. It was 6 innings that he had to come out after, but degrees of good, I'm not really sure.
Choi left his game yesterday in El Paso. Anything come of that?
Yeah, I think he fractured his ankle. I think there's a break there. And Gary, too. Gary, his right wrist had to come out of the game. Fractured wrist. Yeah.
You have a TBA for Sunday?
Not yet.
It is TBA, though?
Yep.
What is going into that, Bob? Sunday, the decision there.
Just how we get there.
Might Hill have to be used before that, or?
Well, it could be Waldron, too. I mean, Nick's a possibility.
I don't know. It turned out
Well, that is
You know why I'm laughing? I'm laughing
because everything's a disaster.
Because it doesn't matter. Like and I know this has to be asked because Kevin and everybody has to write these game stories and everything. But it's just so funny hearing Bob Melvin's like, I don't know, like who's starting Sunday?
Doesn't
matter.
My take, I hear there's 3 minutes and I'm like, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. Oh, by the way, you played Fernando Tatis Jr. second base. Yeah, no one else. Oh, by the way, how was G-Man Choi in the rehab? Oh, I should tell you, not only did he fracture his ankle, so did Gary Sanchez. He fractured his wrist. Oh, remember last year when you were in the NLCS with the Phillies? I can't even think about that. We're just trying to win baseball games right now. It was Zach Wheeler better than he was a year ago? I don't know, but he was darn good. We couldn't do anything. I mean, everything that could possibly go wrong
went wrong. And
now Bob Melvin's still got to talk about this team for the next 21 games. Yeah, exactly. See, what's interesting, you sent me something earlier today.
Yeah.
Because basically the title of the show, like on YouTube, is like, make sense of this Padres team. It makes no sense.
They're just, quote unquote, unlucky.
But when you sent me what you sent me, it supported that very statement. The fact that they've got the best National League in the ERA. Okay. They have the best National League ERA. Best ERA in the National League.
There you go.
I'm like drunk. Yet they've got a winning percentage of whatever it is, under 470. There is no example of any team in the National League since 2011 that doesn't have a 560 winning percentage with the best ERA. So they got a 470 winning percentage or lower with the best ERA in the National League. There's no team in the National League since 2011 that's been worse than a 560 winning percentage. So to your point, it makes no sense.
It makes no sense, but you can't explain it. If you try to explain it, you just get angry because you're talking yourself around in circles.
Mm-hmm.
it goes down to basically this year, what could go wrong went wrong for the Padres. You know, the one-run games, the record in one-run games, the amount of times they've blown out teams, helping their stupid run differential out, the amount of times this team has come up, their big four have come up in clutch situations and have all failed, all of them, to these potential chemistry issues, to potential roster construction being horrible, to no depth, to nobody in the minor leagues ready to help right away. There hasn't been many injuries on this team this year. If you want to put the injury as a reason why this team is where they are, I'll tell you you're wrong, because all of these injuries have come at the end when it doesn't matter anymore, unfortunately. Like, I don't want to see Gary Sanchez, who's had a really good season with the Padres. I don't want to see Musgrove and Darvish and Cronenworth. I don't want to see them get injured. But these injuries came at a time when it didn't matter anymore. Like, they weren't going to make a postseason run. This team was what it was after August. It is. So yeah, it's crazy to see these numbers and think to yourself, they have potentially the Cy Young. They have, the best pitching ERA in the National League. They have arguably the best closer in the National League. And you are still going to finish under 500 with the players you have on it, being healthy all year long.
It actually supports. The funny thing is,
I know,
when you sent that to me, it fully supports the unlucky argument.
But I hate it. And I will never buy into that.
Because when I said, think about this, there isn't one team in the National League that's had the best ERA in the league since 2011 that didn't win at a 560 clip. You know what a 560 clip is? It's better than they were last year. It's 91 wins. That's the worst team in the National League with the best ERA since 2011. The Padres right now are pacing for something like they're 0-11 in extra inning games. They're 6-22 in one-run games. That's what it says to me. That it's all going to come down to that. I'm not going to say it's unlucky that they're 6-22 in one-run games or 0-11 in extra inning games, but I am going to say the reason they're at a 470 winning percentage or whatever it is these other teams, I can promise you that. There's no way these National League leaders in ERA were 6-22 in one-run games. There's no possible way.
Nope.
So now I don't know if that supports the argument of, hey, just do it again next year and maybe you'll be better. That's obviously crazy based on where they are right now.
Everybody.
But you said this to me. I mean, that's what it's saying. Hey, the Padres are the outlier with the really good team ERA.
It's a stat that jumps off the page. It really does, because having the last decade plus of data showing if you have the best ERA in the National League, you are a 91 win team at worst.
Right.
This is a 75 win team.
Right.
What the hell happened?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, think what happened is they went 0-11 in extras and 6-22 in one-run games. I don't think it's Juan Soto saying we quit. You know what I mean? Like, this is more data. This is like a factual statement. They lead the National League in ERA. Like, that's just a factual statement. It's also a factual statement to say they're winless in extra inning games.
So now, because we're going to be talking about it every day until the offseason starts and every day in the offseason, like, how do you fix that? And another thing that's annoying about this as well, I don't know if they're going to even have close to the same ERA as a team next year, because you're losing a lot of pieces. A lot of pieces are getting older. You're losing a lot of pieces. And when you have this type of year from your pitching staff, you have to capitalize on it. And they failed miserably. So to say just run it back and everything will be fine next year, like, it will all even out. Who says the pitching staffs can even produce even close to these numbers next year?
But you're 100% right. And there's no guarantee that because you're bad in one-run games one year, you're good the next. But just hear this out for a second. In 2022, the Padres were 30-17 in one-run games.
We'll say that again?
In 2022, the Padres were 30-17 in one-run games.
That's good.
They've won 6 one-run games this year, 24 fewer than they won a year ago. And it's way too oversimplifying to say that that's the difference, but I'm telling you that's the difference. The issue is when you said, how do you get this right in 2024, is I can't guarantee that just because they're bad in one-run games this year, they're going to be good next year. in one-run games. To your point, there's reasons to believe it'll be harder. No Hader, no Snell, potentially.
And
Right.
we don't know about Lugo and
Lugo.
Waka and who else is going to be in the back in your rotation. Another year for Darvish under the belt coming off of another injury with his arm. Like, it's just going to be harder. And if you want to try to explain all of this, right? Because we've tried to explain it every day. And a lot of times it's like, I don't know. I can't explain it. All I could say to an explanation is it's a bunch of dudes on the offensive side in the lineup that came into a season thinking that they could just go out there and win a bunch of games without really having the mindset necessary and the discipline necessary and the approach that was necessary to go out and win these one-run games. Their approach at the plate in one-run games is awful. Their mindset in games at times is awful. When they get down, they quit. Their overall lineup is just I mean, Xander Bogaerts has 47 RBIs on the year, and he's hitting the fifth hole every single day for the last 3 months. Give me a break. They have no depth on the bench. Their DH spot sucks. And you have guys having down years, and it creates a situation where you have to be perfect. And they're far from it to win games. Far from it. So the approach at the plate, lack of discipline, those to me are the biggest, and a mindset. And the mindset coming in this year about how we just go out there, win 100 games. Look at the team we have. They went into the season all talk. And now they're going to end the season with egg all over their face.
Okay, it's interesting you say that. And I'm not disagreeing, but just hear me out. Sometimes, we've said this a lot. We even said it last week. We're like, there's a culture issue with the Padres because you can't put your finger on the actual issue. So just cover it with an umbrella. Like, you can just say that top to bottom, there's an issue with the Padres.
You can't cover things, John. You make sure that the curtains are always open. Remember that. Curtains always have to be open.
Okay, but hear me out. Sometimes there's no explanation for something that's inexplicable. That cannot be explained.
Yeah.
The truth is, you go to MLB. I mean, this isn't some secret data. You go to MLB.com.
Don't do it.
You look at expected win-loss, and it's 77-64, which is way better than the Giants and way better than the Diamondbacks, and is 5 games behind the Dodgers. And the reason I bring that up, it goes back to this. Well, they're 6-22 in one-run games. They're 0-11 in extra inning games. They've got the best ERA in the National League. Like, I understand what we're all saying. They've got no heart. I don't disagree with any of this. But here's the truth, that if they just played to like their expected performance, we wouldn't say anything like that about this team. We wouldn't even have to explain it, is my point. They might not win a World Series, but if they just played the way they were supposed to, if they just played like all these other National League teams that led the National League in ERA for the last 14 years, well, they would just fall out of bed and win 90 games. Now they haven't. I can't explain it either. So we try explaining it by saying, well, Juan Soto says they quit and they got a bad clubhouse dynamic and Manny Machado is a bad leader. I'm just making it up.
And this is why I think it's a horrible idea to quote unquote run it back next year. Running it back next year, it just, to me, you need a lot of change.
Mm-hmm.
Running it back is doing what's the term for insanity? Like doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is what essentially this team would be doing if you run it back next year. Could things change? Could they win a couple more games here and there? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But is that what we're really wanting here? Like, do you really, as a fan of this team, do you want to just be a little better? Like, no, you want to be a lot better, and you want to have this thing completely flipped on its head. You think it's going to just be flipped on its head with the exact same roster next season? Like, I don't.
Right. No, I agree with that. I don't think, even if everything went quote unquote according to plan this year, like even if the Padres were the expected win-loss team that they are at MLB.com,
that's still
it's fine. Yeah, exactly. They're pacing to win, 88 games, 89 games.
Congrats, you'll be the fourth or fifth seed.
They'll be an underdog in their first playoff series. They would need to overperform to win a round.
It's not what
right. They weren't going to win the division.
Signed up for here.
They weren't going to be the favorite to win the National League.
Right. That's not what Peter Seidler wrote all these checks to do.
Right.
He didn't put out all these checks and Preller didn't sign all these players and trade for all these pieces and for a 4th and 5th seed. Like that's not it. So you're right. even if this was flipped on its head to the point where their expected wins-loss
They'd
record
still
was
be
still
a wild card team.
I think we would still be upset. I think we would still be like, what is going on with this team? Why can't this team put it into that next gear? They have it. They just can't do it. Instead, it's just a complete failure and disaster.
This is a complete failure and disaster.
Yeah.
This honestly is. I wouldn't have said it if they actually were 77 and 64 right now. And it would be a lot like last year. Like, hey, why can't you kick it into the next gear? But what I would say is what has happened with baseball in the last 10 years is baseball now has become about the postseason. It used to be about the regular season. Like 2 teams made the playoffs in the National League up until like 25 years ago. So you had to do it in the regular season. Now you watch the Phillies last year. They had like an average year. They got hot in the postseason. They made the World Series. So like you almost have to reserve judgment when you have a playoff caliber team. We don't have to reserve judgment with the Padres. They're just bad. And they got no shot. There's no path. They could literally go 21-0 and they'd finish on the outside looking in.
Which honestly, if you are like as a sports team, right? We cover a sports team. You want them to either be 2 things.
Good or bad?
You want them to either be really good and in it, or like this thing needs to bottom out because there has to be change. If you're in that gray middle area, that's the worst.
I don't think they're in that.
No, they're not close to that. But like that gray middle area where they're like good, but they're not that good, but they're also not that bad.
Right. You could justify, hey, run it back.
Right. And you're like, hey, we made it as a 5th seed. We made it as a 6th seed. We could, like this is turning. That's to me what I think is the worst in sports. And honestly, I wish they weren't here, but at least they're on one end of the spectrum. And the spectrum that they're on right now, which is horrific, horrible disaster, is a cause for change has to be made.
We'll see if they make it or not. Bryce Miller has written about the Padres and the MVP of the 2023 season. It's not anyone other than Padres fans. He's also written about San Diego State's tailback Keenan Christian, who nearly went to UCLA. Bryce Miller, columnist for the UT, will join us on the other side. Plus, San Diego State tickets for Saturday against UCLA. We've got a pair. We'll give them away today between now and 6 p.m. Stay with us on John and Jim. All right, great columnist for the UT. Bryce Miller has written about Padres fans. He's written recently about Keenan Christian, who faces UCLA this weekend. He nearly was a Bruin, and Bryce Miller will join us next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Indeed.com. Padres, they have an off day today before they start a road trip starting off in Houston tomorrow night, take on the Astros. Bad news again keeps coming in for the Padres as yesterday Gary Sanchez left the game, broke his wrist. G-Man Choi, remember him? The Padres traded for him. I think he had like 8 at-bats with the Padres. Broke his foot. It's actually being diagnosed as a Liz Frank injury while he was on a rehab assignment yesterday. And NFL football is finally back tonight. The season kicks off with the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Detroit Lions. Kickoffs at 5:20. Travis Kelce, he is ruled out for that game. Summer is winding down, but business needs keep ramping up. Check out Indeed, the all-in-one hiring solution that helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, again, we've got Aztec tickets to give away for Saturday, San Diego State, UCLA, 4:30 Snapdragon Stadium. Be listening for your chance to win a pair of tickets. Our pregame coverage will begin at 2:30. We'll get into the NFL at 4:30, by the way. Dave Mason, sports brand manager, betonline.ag. He'll join us. We'll get you ready for NFL Game 1 tonight, Chiefs and Lions. Right now, always great to catch up with Bryce Miller from the UT, outstanding columnist. He's been writing on the Padres and the Aztecs. And first of all, Bryce, we appreciate you hopping on. If you wouldn't mind for our listeners, because I know you wrote about it, you've been going through a bit of a health scare. So we've been thinking about you. For our listeners, how are you doing? How is your health right now? And thank you for doing it.
Yeah, sure. No, I was diagnosed in July with bladder cancer, so I'm a couple of chemo treatments in, and as I tell people, I just jumped in a line that's too long, and plenty of people have already stood in it, and so it's my turn. And you just follow the advice of the smart people you meet along the way at the hospital, and stick with the plan. So that's where I'm at now. I don't feel too bad, but there's still a long ways to go.
All right. Well, we're praying for you. We're thinking of you, and we know that you're still working because you've been writing about the Padres and the Aztecs. So let's actually start with what Bob Melvin said post game. I know you've heard it. He was asked about, I don't even know how it came up, but he basically was like, Bryce Miller wrote about the MVP of the team, and it's the Padres fans, and Bryce was 100% right. What was your reaction to what Bob Melvin said, and why did you go down that path in terms of Padres fans this year?
Well, he had sent me a note. He texted me about it after I wrote it. I didn't know it was going to be, a double feature, and he was going to mention it in a live post game, but which was nice of him. But I think the transition was him talking about, the attendance record, and there's still a homestand left, and just the reaction of Padre fans, given what the reality is and the win-loss standings, has been remarkable. Some of that, you buy season tickets and you're stuck at that point for this season, and you've got to make a choice about whether to use them or not. And they had to cap season tickets, and there was just unprecedented support given the team that was put together, the NLCS run last year. But that doesn't explain what the fans have done and how they've showed up and the ways that they have continued to support the team in the last month, especially given as it's become more clear that this team's not going anywhere in the postseason. It's just one of those that, San Diego has a reputation that, is it a fickle city in a sports sense? Is it cursed in a sports sense? Will people find anything else to do other than support these teams? And I think it showed when there's, when you invest, when there are expectations, when there's real effort to win, the city decided to support these Padres, and they did it in a huge way.
They absolutely did. Yeah, the fans this year, regardless of how this team has played, has showed up in a huge way. So, the closer we get to this thing officially being over this year for the Padres, the big questions now, Bryce, so how are they going to fix this, and what changes need to be made? Because you can't have a year this year with the expectations and the money that was spent and not make major changes. But I do feel like, Bryce, there's a part of me that thinks that potentially there might not be any major changes, and they could potentially try and quote unquote run this back. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question, right? What do they do? What do they not do? In some ways, we keep, it's a circular topic that we keep talking around and come right back to the beginning. It's the kind of chase your tail thing. They are limited with the contracts, the size of the contracts and the length of those contracts to what they can do in some ways with a core group of players in their lineup, but also what that might inhibit their ability to do with other players in terms of trying to lengthen that lineup. I think they learned that you can't buy a championship. You can't buy a championship with four guys. At the top of the lineup, you've got to have guys that can help you produce runs in the 6-hole, the 7-hole, the 8-hole. And so that was a tough lesson that the Padres learned this season. But they've just got huge decisions to make. What are they going to do with Juan Soto? He's got another season. He's a free agent. That's a potential huge contract that they would be adding. At the same time, they've got to make decisions about Josh Hader and Blake Snell. I was on the record at the trade deadline that they should have dealt Hader and potentially looked at a deal for Snell to try to fix some of these things you're talking about. They didn't go that route. But if they have Blake Snell, what does that look like in terms of the Juan Soto discussion? If they don't have Blake Snell, if they don't decide to try to ink a huge contract that could be, approaching $500 million. I don't think the Padres would be smart to do that. Wouldn't be wise. I don't think they would. But I mean, that's what's on the table right now in terms of what Juan Soto turned down in Washington before he became a Padre. Are they in the discussion about Shohei Ohtani? I mean, they were before, and he really considered San Diego. The sales pitch that they put together, and that was back when there wasn't a universal DH, and it made no sense for Ohtani to go to a National League team. So you would think they'd be at least in a discussion there. So there were just too many open-ended things contract-wise that would, I'm not answering your question because I have no idea
Right.
what the next thing to do is. It's how they free up and deploy their money, and all those things are factors in that.
And Bryce, to follow up on the changes part of this all, I know your feelings on Bob Melvin. Do you think AJ Preller deserves to be back next year?
Does he deserve to be back next year? I would say that a lot of people in baseball, I'm trying to change the voice so it's not me saying it, because when I say this, I want to say it in the column, and I want it to be me saying it in the newspaper. But this is year 9. And winning regular season, that full season over that time, essentially, when 2020 was, pandemic shortened and there were a couple of huge misfires over the last 3 to 4 years. But there was also, a major run last year in the NLCS. I guess I would say it this way. I don't know how many general managers in baseball ever get this amount of time to produce at a winning level consistently, to win divisions, to consistently be in the playoffs. And, here we sit at year 9.
All right, Bryce Miller, columnist for the UT, with us right now on John and Jim. I also wanted to ask you, Bryce, when I initially texted you, I was really enjoying your article that you wrote today on Keenan Christian, who's trying to kind of shake the label of just a speed guy because he was a track star, and he's not just a guy that runs outside the tackles, but he's saying he's capable of running inside the tackles as well. He's got a really unique story, doesn't he? I mean, he went to SC, considered UCLA, is now facing the Bruins. He's back home in San Diego where he starred as a prep player. What type of opportunity is this week specifically for San Diego State's starting running back, Keenan Christian?
Well, I think it's a big one. He's a senior, and he still hasn't proved he can be the go-to guy at a program. He hasn't proved, even with that speed, that he can consistently be that breakaway guy. It just feels like there's a lot of proving for him to do. He's clearly got, a ton of talent. Just winning the 100 and the 200 of the California State meet is just a massive achievement. A state this big with the talent that exists, for him to do that is elite speed. But at the same time, he never really got on track at USC. It's early on here, but, he hasn't yet, in a game yet here shown that he can be that back who, is the huge scoring threat that everybody thought he could be right out of high school. He's got a lot to prove. I was surprised. I didn't realize how close he was going to UCLA. I asked him to kind of break that down. He did want to stay close to home. He wasn't really looking at those offers, Alabama, Notre Dame. He had a ton of, elite programs that were looking for him, but he really wanted to stay closer to home than that. But he said it was a 50-50, basically a coin flip. Said he decided when he got to USC and just felt a little more comfortable with teammates there. But otherwise, he very easily could have been at UCLA. And he's had a couple of games against them when he was at USC. Didn't do anything of huge significance in either of those games. So this is a chance, as a senior, for him to make an impact, to be somebody who helps decide a game like this. And I think that's important too.
You mentioned a really interesting point. We'll let you go, Bryce. But the point that, hey, he wanted to stay home in this blessing and curse world of conference realignment. What could be advantageous for San Diego State is if you want to stay home, so to speak. Well, SC and UCLA are playing, in the Big Ten come 2024. And a lot of programs in the West are playing in the Big 12 or the Big 10 or even the ACC in 2024. If you want to check out this article, it is in the UT. Speedy Aztecs running back Keenan Christian hunts for a breakout game against UCLA, a team he nearly played for. Bryce, thank you. We're thinking about you. Be well, and we'll do it again soon.
Thanks, Bryce.
Yep. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, Bryce Miller, outstanding columnist for the UT. All right, so Jim made it back to San Diego, but something didn't, all right, that Jim brought with him.
Yeah.
Aaron? Where's Aaron? Now, Aaron made it back too, right?
She made it back.
She made it back. All right, Jim will share what was lost
Man.
on his trip back from Philadelphia to San Diego. Plus, San Diego State UCLA tickets. We'll give those away between now and 6 p.m. At 4:30, betting expert Dave Mason, betonline.ag, will get us ready for Chiefs and Lions, the NFL opener tonight. Stay with us on John and Jim.
We're live at Fair Play in North Park, getting ready for the start of the 9-game.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, influencers, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
All right, we've got Aztec tickets for Saturday to give away, plus an update on expected attendance for that game. Plus, what did Jim lose in Philly? That's next.
Water. All of life depends on it. So, for the love of water, California, everyone has a part to play when it comes to reducing water waste. Let's make conservation a way of life. Find ways to conserve at SaveOurWater.com.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, September 22nd and 23rd.
The most unforgettable weekend of music on the planet.
Buy tickets now at AXS.com.
Dave Mason, betonline.ag. Will join us at 4:30. The Chiefs play the Lions tonight, Jim, in a National Football League game.
They do?
That counts
football
for like the regular season. Winner gets a win, loser gets a loss.
I'm so excited.
Chiefs,
so excited.
Lions tonight. And again, it's like if the Padres were 80 and 50, you'd be like,
cool.
It's baseball season.
It's like an extra bonus to what's going on in the baseball season.
But now that the Padres are out of it, it's like
the only thing.
A lot of people probably have turned their attention to the NFL, even in San Diego, where the NFL turns its back on San Diegans.
Yep. And I don't blame anybody that does it. I just don't. And unfortunately, it's the Padres' own fault.
It is. Absolutely. With the expanded wild card, I mean, to not
break.
be in it in September is crazy.
You're not even close.
We have an update on San Diego State attendance expectations for Saturday. San Diego State has 30,000 tickets out for this UCLA game. They've got about 4,000 tickets remaining. These first two home games, they've moved over 1,000 tickets day of game. For Ohio and Idaho State, there's reasons to believe they could move more than that for UCLA. So you're looking at, according to the UT, expectations for a near capacity crowd against UCLA. Somewhere, Jim, in the neighborhood of, 32, 33, 34,000 tickets out. It's going to be a really good atmosphere. Really good atmosphere.
I hope so.
I think it will.
I hope so. Because be honest here, the first 2 weeks of the season, the atmosphere just wasn't up to the level it needed to be. It just wasn't. It's facts. And so I hope that this game against UCLA is a full capacity crowd or at least close to it. I mean, shoot, screw it. Full capacity. It needs to be full capacity. They need to have fans stay there for the entirety of the game. I would love if the student section, the show, was there throughout the fourth quarter. And hopefully the Aztecs can get a win against the team that they're heavily, heavily underdogs against. And then maybe that will get people, the casual, potentially fan that wants to go to maybe Snapdragon Stadium, but they don't want to go because of the prices. Maybe that will get them to, hey, maybe this team's pretty good this year. Maybe let's go check them out.
This won't be easy, to your point. They're 14.5-point underdogs. Hopefully San Diego State plays well and gives themselves an opportunity to potentially win this game in the second half. I think it's going to be a really good atmosphere. I think you'll have UCLA fans. But what I find interesting about the attendance conversation is that if San Diego State was playing at UCLA on Saturday, the place would be a third full. Mm-hmm. Now it's a 100,000 seat stadium, but they only sell like 60,000 now. They drape, what do they do? Awnings everywhere. Yeah. It says UCLA over like 30,000 tickets or seats. Same thing at the Coliseum. If San Diego State played at the Coliseum on Saturday, there'd be open seats. If San Diego State played at Stanford on Saturday, 60% of the building would be empty. Cal, 60% of the building would be empty. But for whatever reason, when San Diego State plays at home, I get it, second-year stadium. It's like if they play in front of 60% capacity or 80% capacity, it's like, oh my gosh, how are there only 32,000 when there's 33,000 seats? I'm like, there's no school in the West, in the state of California, that's getting anywhere near capacity. Like none. Maybe SC. Mm-hmm. I got a Heisman Trophy winner and how many all-time national championships? UCLA, I watched the highlights back of their Coastal Carolina game last weekend. There was no one there.
Well,
no one.
I will say this. I get your point, but I think the focus for San Diego State and filling up that stadium needs to be just solely on them and not what anyone else does. I think that's an issue that they need to figure out. And I think that's something, hopefully, that they figure out soon, because that stadium is beautiful. That stadium is a great, just anywhere you go in there is great. Like, there is not a bad seat in the house. The food there is delicious. Aaron, I've taken there multiple times. I know Kristen feels the same way.
Yeah,
she loves that place because Aaron went to ECU, so she would go to football games at ECU on Saturdays, and she was like, "Oh my God, the stadium blows our crap stadium out of the water." She loves that place. So that stadium, for how nice it is, it deserves to have a full capacity crowd for Aztecs games. And unfortunately, that's not been the case. And that is something that J.D. Wicker and San Diego State are going to need to try and they're going to need to fix that.
And you also have to remember that as late as August 4th, the day the Pac-12 collapsed, San Diego State was envisioning a future in the Pac-12.
They were, yeah.
And there's a big difference between playing UCLA, which is going to draw 33,000 fans this weekend or whatever, and playing Wyoming. With all due respect to Wyoming, there's a difference between playing Oregon and the University of New Mexico.
Yeah, but also you hope that in the future, you hope that it's not based off of opponent. You know what I mean? Like, you should fill the stadium because you want to see the Aztecs play.
I agree.
Not because of the opponent.
Yeah, but that's how college football is. I mean, if I went to Penn State, if Penn State was playing Ohio, it's not full. It's just not.
Weren't they full this past weekend? 110,000 people?
They played West Virginia. So that's very opponent specific. And listen, Alabama's going to sell tickets. But when Arizona State is not playing against, if Arizona State's playing Ohio,
who's Tulane play this weekend?
It's half full.
I know the big thing there is Tulane sold out.
They are in the top 25, and they're playing a team in the top 25.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know, and it's like they never sell. It's just, I understand what people are saying. I do understand it, but I feel like all the people want to talk about with San Diego State, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Ole Miss, okay, yeah.
Ole Miss.
Big time. There we go.
All they want to talk about with San Diego State is two things with Snapdragon Stadium: weather and attendance. It's like, oh, it's going to be 86 this weekend. Okay, well, it's 86 in Austin, Texas. It's 86 in Gainesville. It's 86 in Tallahassee. It's 86 at the Rose Bowl. Like, okay, it's not covered in Happy Valley. It's not covered at the Big House. It's not covered at the Horseshoe. They have the same weather issues in September. So I don't know.
No, I agree. But it is something that they need to fix.
I don't know if they'll fix the weather. We live in San Diego.
Not the weather.
It's pretty ideal.
The attendance. They need to fix it.
Jim lost something. He'll share what that is on the other side. Plus, Aztec tickets for Saturday. Again, expectations are a near sellout crowd. We have tickets to give away. We'll do that between now and 6 p.m. Dave Mason, betonline.ag, will join us at 4:30. NFL kicks off tonight. Lions and Chiefs. He will get us ready. Hour 2, John and Jim next. All right, so we've been talking about all the college football, NFL this weekend. Windmill Farms, the college area's natural grocer, they've got you covered for your game day needs, including this weekend here in San Diego. They have organic farm fresh produce and meats. They've got an amazing craft beer selection. They really do. They've got a full deli with award-winning sandwiches. I just picked some up this past weekend. I'll be back over there this weekend as well. They're centrally located off Del Cerro Boulevard, right across the freeway from Montezuma Mesa. Windmill Farms is your family-owned market serving the San Diego area for 20 years. So whatever you need this weekend, they have you covered, whether it's the produce, whether it's the beer, if it's the deli. You need to get over there. You can visit windmillfarmsmarket.com to see their weekly specials. Again, windmillfarmsmarket.com. And remember, shop local, shop at Windmill Farms this weekend.
All right, this update is brought to you by Indeed.com. Padres, they have an off date today. They'll start a road trip starting in Houston tomorrow night. Gary Sanchez will be out the remainder of the year with a broken wrist. And G-Man Choi, if anybody remembers him, fractured his foot last night. It's being described as a Liz Frank injury. He is also out for the remainder of the year as well. And NFL kicks off tonight. The defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs hosted the Detroit Lions. Bad news for the Chiefs, though. Chris Jones obviously out because he is holding out there. And Travis Kelce has been ruled out of the game with a knee injury. Summer is winding down, but business needs keep ramping up. Check out Indeed, the all-in-one hiring solution that makes you attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Here's John and Jim.
San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 2 of John and Jim. Dave Mason, betonline.ag, gets us ready for tonight, Thursday Night Football, the return of the National Football League. Lions-Chiefs, kind of a weird opening night matchup.
Why?
If I do say so myself. Why?
Oh, because
of the Lions.
Yeah, well, I think they're the
what are they?
Not the darlings from last year, but they were like the team that everyone like, oh, we hope they win. Like,
Where did they go last year? Did they win 10 games? Did they win 8 games? Did they win 9?
I think they went 9-8, and they beat the Packers in the last game of the year. Unfortunately, that would have put them in the postseason if I forget who.
Yeah, they're 9-8.
Yeah, I forget what team earlier in the day won.
Right. So they missed out on the postseason, but they went 9-8.
They also ended the Packers season last year. Because the Packers won that game, Packers were in.
Who else do the Chiefs have at home this year? I mean, they have the division teams. So they got the 3 division teams. They have the Lions.
Let me just run down my.
You don't have the Chiefs schedule off the top of your head?
Yeah, no, I don't.
But like I'm saying, it's a little unconventional, is my point. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Like you could have gone even. And listen, I'm not saying go play Chiefs Chargers, but
Like
I think it's a little more intriguing.
Yeah, but it's their turn in the rotation though, because they play the Bears at home this year and they play the Packers again this year. So they play the division. So
Okay, here, I'll give you an example.
Eagles.
Yeah. What I guess that just happened in the Super Bowl. You don't do that week 1.
What game? What
that's week 11.
What network is that on?
ESPN. It's a Monday Night Football game.
Okay, so ESPN paid for the most money for that game. That's what happened.
I guess. I don't know how that works.
What
Is
happened?
That how it works?
Yeah. They paid the most money to have that game. I'm sure that's their marquee game that they
Of the
went
year.
of the year
Yeah.
that they went after to make sure that was going to be on their network.
Okay. But this is NBC's opener. This is a huge game. This Thursday night opener is some of probably the highest rated games of the NFL season.
Yeah.
The Thursday opener, standalone game.
I agree. And what that
How
Buffalo?
about this? But yeah, Buffalo. That game's on CBS week 14.
So CBS paid the most money to get that game.
That's not how. There's not some money draft.
Yeah,
that's
it
not
is,
how it
dude.
works.
They pay money. Like,
well, no, I understand they pay money to air NFL games, but they don't.
It's not like a lottery.
But there's not some draft or like, hey, I'm ESPN. I'll pay this much to air Chiefs Eagles. And CBS is like, oh, I can't match that. That's not how it works. Agreed? Agreed. That is not how the system works.
I'm pretty sure that's almost how the system works.
Please, can someone that schedules for the NFL please call us?
Then how is those scheduled games on ESPN determined then?
Dude, you know as well as I do, ESPN typically gets like okay games. The recent Monday Night Football games last decade have been like, You know, they haven't been like 30 years ago Monday night
when
games.
you shell out the money to get Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the broadcast,
I agree with that.
You shell out the money to get the best possible games you can on your network for Monday Night Football.
Okay.
I bet you if you look at the Monday Night Football schedule, there's like a majority of those games are all good matchups. Guarantee it.
They've gotten better matchups in the last year or so, to your point. But no, not. I'll give you an example. Now, they got a couple doubleheaders this year. They have Saints-Panthers in week 2. That didn't happen in 1990.
Doubleheader?
They have Browns-Steelers.
Doubleheader?
Yeah. I mean, these aren't like, they're just weird games. I'll give you an example. Like Rams aren't good. Rams, Bengals.
Yeah. So guess what?
Eagles, Bucks.
Week 2, they're like, we'll punt on week 2 because we're going to spend all our money to get Eagles and
they have
Chiefs week 11.
Falcons. No, that's Sunday night. Yeah, they have Falcons, Jags on ESPN this year.
Okay.
I don't know what my point is, but
if you look at, I bet you though, John, if you look at the scheduled games, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are certain weeks where they're not going to be great because other networks get those games because they paid for those games. But I'm telling you, ESPN, there are certain games
I love this.
that the networks get because they paid the most money for those games.
Jim facts.
Can someone please shoot that down? That is not how the TV. I'm laughing because I don't have an ability to fully explain it.
How does it work?
Here's how it works.
Okay, tell me.
Here's how it works. CBS pays a figure.
Yeah.
For NFL games, NBC pays a certain amount. ESPN pays a certain amount, and maybe there's some lottery that goes into it. Remember, it used to be CBS gets AFC and Fox gets NFC. That has since changed. But there's not some scenario where they're like, hey, here are the 10 best games of the year. Who wants them? And ESPN's like, I'll pay the most for that. And CBS is like, I'll pay the most for that. I don't think that's how it works.
Okay.
That's just my 2 cents on it. I can't prove that. I'm not going to go look it up, but that's my 2 cents on it. Anyway, Dave Mason, betonline.ag is going to join us. My overall point was this. They got Bengals at home.
Mm-hmm.
They've got, what was the other game we just said? They have Buffalo at home.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the 3 division teams at home. Obviously, Chargers, Raiders, name the other team, Broncos. Like, I think I'd rather see like Broncos with Russell Wilson and the new head coach over like Dan Campbell and the Lions and Jared Goff.
I'm good with it.
No, I know the numbers will be huge. It's the first game of the NFL.
Doesn't matter you put out there. I thought last year the Detroit Lions were this like gritty team that people rooted for because they scored a lot of points. Jamal Williams, who's now in the Saints, led the league in rushing touchdowns with 17. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he is a superstar in the making.
Let me turn off, Bachelor in Paradise.
Okay.
No, and again, it's going to be like the top rated thing of the last 9 months since the Super Bowl. Let's get to the round. I wouldn't play. I'm not putting the Lions on the first game of the year.
Okay, fine.
But it's still going to be a huge number because it's the NFL.
Like, debating you on that. I'm just telling you, like, the reasons why to watch this game.
Yeah, but if they turn, like, to the Detroit of old, they'll get flexed out of their primetime games later because,
it's game 1.
They'll be awful. So.
True. All right, let's get to it.
Oh.
Isn't this
it's time for the wrap, presented by Sombrero Mexican Food.
You ruined
Check out their
it.
website at sombreromex.com.
When are you going to Jersey for a week?
Oh, you were waiting for like the music to hit?
Yeah, it's called a swell, John. I remember my first day.
Did you know what we were doing?
Yes.
Oh.
But then you chimed in. I was like, yeah, and then it just all went that.
My bad.
Would you take the Chiefs or the field to win the Super Bowl this year?
I would take the field. Winning back-to-back Super Bowls in the NFL nowadays is just so hard to do. The Chris Jones thing with them, and then the Travis Kelce, nagging knee injury, that's a concern. They're going to still be a good team. They're still going to make the postseason if you have Patrick Mahomes healthy and upright. But to win a Super Bowl, that's going to be tough. Just because I think the AFC has gotten
loaded
much, much better.
I agree with you. I mean, you got 32 teams, and even if they're the favorite.
Wait, what? You have 32 teams?
But here's the thing. They're not the 1-2 favorite. They're a 6-1 favorite. Jim facts. I mean, they're a 6-1 favorite. That's not a 1-1 favorite. Like, they're not the overwhelming favorite. They are a favorite, but they're not an overwhelming favorite to win the Super Bowl. I'll take, first of all, Buffalo's quasi-due at this point. To your point, just the AFC quarterback situation. It's not going to be easy to get out of the AFC. NFC, okay, we'll see. Philadelphia, San Francisco, else? Dallas. Yeah. I mean, come on, Dallas. It's been 30 years. But if they get out of the AFC, they'll be favored, is my point, in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but I just don't envision them hosting another AFC championship game.
It's crazy.
I mean, the Bengals as well. I mean, there's so many teams. Even Jacksonville, I think, is like this upstart team What do you mean? Stop.
You think Jacksonville's going to beat the Chiefs for a spot in the Super Bowl this year?
I just said like they weren't going to beat them, but they're an upstart. They're a team that's on the up right now.
5 minutes ago, you guys were bitching because they gave Jacksonville a prime time game. Now they're going to go to the Super
Detroit.
Bowl.
He was bitching, not me.
About Detroit.
You brought up Jacksonville too, and you read the primetime schedule. You're like, oh, it's Jacksonville.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm like Trevor Lawrence, dude. Come on, give me a break.
Next question.
John hates football.
No, I just hate the idea of selling Jacksonville as a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
I never said they were legitimate. I just said they're a good team, not like they're a Super Bowl contender.
We'll ask our betting expert about how legitimate they are. All right, guys, the Padres playoff odds are currently at 0.5%.
That's good.
Do you think that's too high, too low, or just about right?
I love you, Will Holder, but he needs to be just like put out. I'm sorry, but sometimes you see like
what does he need to be?
You see like a wounded dog sometimes, and you're just like, you need to be put out.
Your analogy is to get rid of Will Holder?
No, not to get rid of Will Holder. Just this whole notion idea.
What kind of attack is that?
Let me finish. The idea of thinking that there's a shot needs to be completely put out of everybody's mind.
He doesn't think there's a shot. He doesn't think there's a shot. He's just being a fan.
He's trolling, right? He's trolling.
He's not trolling. He doesn't. Will Holder is not on social media saying the Padres are going to make the postseason. He's rooting. But he doesn't think that at 0.5% they have a chance of making the postseason.
I just look at it differently.
Will, call in.
I look at it differently. I'm sorry, Will, but I see these numbers like, well, if they win tomorrow, it's like there's no winning tomorrow that has any significance on the rest of this year. It is done.
Yeah, like the Padres right now, what's the record, Jim?
Who cares?
They're 66-75.
Great.
If they go 21-0, they'll probably miss the postseason. Just look at it that way. If they go 21-0, they probably have like a 50-50 shot of making the postseason. If they don't go 21-0, oh, by the way, it would be their longest winning streak ever forever. Then they're not making the postseason. The season's over.
Someone in the chat on YouTube's like, wait, isn't that murder?
You're like, hey, Will, I want to kill you.
No,
because you think the Padres might make the playoffs.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
Like a loyal listener.
I didn't mean it like that. I meant like the idea of making the postseason needs to just be like
put out of its misery.
Out of its misery.
Not Will, but
Not
the Padres
yes.
season needs to be put out of its misery.
Like the idea of it. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Go back to Philadelphia.
Welcome
please.
back.
Next question.
Will the Lions be a playoff team this year?
Oh,
I
Lions talk.
love this question. Lions talk on San Diego Sports 760.
Well, you just
3 to 6
10
p.m.
minutes on like why Saint Amar or whatever we should be watching it.
Hey, you want to talk about Jacksonville's defensive line here soon?
No, I don't at all. Tell us why the Lions again are on NBC tonight.
Money.
Yes.
Will they be It's the Lions, man. It's hard for me to like say yes.
But now their division's changed a lot.
Division's up for grabs.
Because of Green Bay.
It is up for grabs. So with that being said, since Aaron Rodgers is not in the division, yeah, they have a shot. I mean, a 9-8 season could easily get you in the postseason in the NFC North.
I agree. I think they go 9-8, maybe 10-7. 7 teams make the playoffs in each conference. I think they have a similar year. I think they win 9 or 10 games. I do think they'll make the playoffs as like the 6 or 7 seed in the NFC. Is there another question? Is there more to laugh about here?
Can we talk about the Browns next?
Yeah.
Oh, we had another Lions question. I'll scratch it.
Oh, perfect.
All right. Now, this might be the toughest question we've ever had on the wrap.
Ooh.
What's one positive that you can take away from this Padres season? Now, normally I tell Jim only one.
Right.
But I don't think you're going to have a problem with only one
True.
on this question.
Well, Brent, see, in a year of misery and disaster, I think this question is actually easy because there's so much bad that the only good parts of this season shine the brightest, right? And for that, I'm going to say it's Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim is, what are you laughing at?
Nothing.
Ha-Seong Kim is the bright spot of this Padres season. To me, he is a guy that you could look at as somebody, a key member of your team and a key member of your team that I don't think we could have said at the start of the year with Ha-Seong Kim.
The answer is Blake Snell, unfortunately, because he's not going to be here in 2024. So there's no real payoff to this Cy Young season. He's now the betting favorite to win the National League Cy Young. Now, can he overcome not having Gary Sanchez? That's the big story of September.
Yeah.
Can he throw to a catcher that isn't Gary Sanchez? But he's the betting favorite right now. I mean, who saw this, Jim? Cy Young? Cy Young from Blake Snell, especially after April, especially on this team that hasn't been good?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The Blake Snell throwing to new catcher for the remainder
Do they
of
even
the season.
who's their catcher? I mean,
Luis
Campusano
Campusano
has been banged up.
Remember when he threw him under the bridge?
In Pittsburgh?
Was it last year?
It was either his first year with the Padres or last year. Was that
He just
2021 or
completely
2022?
discredited him being a major league catcher. And I was like, that's Bush, man. Like, what are you doing?
Well, maybe he's going to throw to like Brett Sullivan in the, final month of the year.
And while I do think, and there's no denying it, that Blake Snell's had a very, very good season, is easily best with the Padres. Are we sure it's a runaway right now? Like,
no,
he's the
not
favorite?
a runaway. He's the favorite.
Like,
I mean,
are we sure about that?
I just saw it on ESPN.com. He was minus 210.
Okay.
And the other dudes were plus something. Like he was a pretty sizable, not invincible, but he was a sizable favorite.
The only guy that could give him any competition is Steele from the Cubs, but Snell has almost 60 more strikeouts than he does.
And Strider yesterday was awful.
Yeah, his ERA is almost 4 now.
So
it's 3.5, I think actually is.
So maybe it's because other guys have just dropped off and someone has to win it. And he makes a good point on Steele with the Cubs. He's had a really good year.
I think it's between Snell and Steele.
And of course, the Cubs have had a good year.
The Cubs had a good year. They're going to make the postseason, which nobody saw before the year. Cody Bellinger has been a godsend for them.
No doubt.
He's going to get paid this offseason. But good for them. Good for the Cubs for having it work, right? Not trading away Stroman, not trading away Bellinger, and having that work. But I think that when you get to the numbers of Blake Snell this year, I do think some voters will look at his walks and be like, dude, you led the league in walks. How is that a Cy Young year?
Well, those walks don't score. Amazing.
I know they don't, but I just do think that's going to be a knock on him. Like, the amount of walks that he's had this year.
It's a crazy number.
It is. His whip is 1.4.
It's way too high for a Cy Young Award winner, but those guys aren't scoring. So
1.25.
Nobody works out of more 2-on, 1-out, bases loaded, 1-out spots than Blake Snell. I mean, it's amazing how often he does it.
Yeah.
2-on, nobody out.
It's going to be there will not be a unanimous Cy Young here. Not even close.
No.
I don't think anybody's running away with it. Like, you see 28 first place votes. I don't think that's happening. I think you might get a guy win with just 13 or 14 first place votes.
Yeah, I agree.
This is Steele's line for the year: 16-3 with a 2.55 ERA.
Pretty good.
And a whip of 1.14.
Yeah, it's very good. To Jim's point,
how many innings pitched?
152.
How many strikeouts?
Only 153.
Okay, here's my question.
Okay,
because the people
Snell's got 50 more than he does.
People are weighing in on the text line with their one positive. So, what is your Padres positive? 844-570-1360. Just one. I know it's so hard. You probably have millions to choose from. Or 70470. Start it with team. By the way, 815 took a shot at me.
Xander Bogaerts bobblehead day.
Right, exactly. No, what did we say recently, Brent? We said something within the last couple of days. It was something. I forget what it was. 815 took a shot at me and said, I love John, but his football takes are rough. It wasn't my take that, hey, the Lions are must-watch television or the Jags are a threat to beat the Chiefs in the AFC. What did I say that was so far off?
That you hate football and you
I
think
didn't say that at
NFL
all.
is stupid.
I know. I've never said that.
I know.
Not at all. I don't feel that way at all. I'll be watching this entire game tonight. Actually, I won't because I'm calling a high school game with Jonathan Rifkin. Enjoy the 5 o'clock hour.
Oh, must be nice. I will enjoy it.
I'll tape this game. I'm interested in this game. I'll tape it in my beta or VHS.
What? Ow, I bit my tongue.
Oh my gosh. Jim's back.
Ow, that hurt. Wow.
All right, 70470. Start it with team. Your one Padres positive. Dave Mason, sports brand manager, betonline.ag. He will join us coming up in about 8 or 9 minutes. We'll talk about tonight. The NFL season will get underway. San Diego State tickets. We're going to give those away. Be listening. We have 2 free tickets to San Diego State, UCLA, Saturday, 4:30 kick, Snapdragon Stadium. Jim is back in the pregame show after taking a week off.
I'm sure everyone's excited about that.
You just figured Idaho State. I don't need to be there for that.
I only show for the big games, guys.
And then all of a sudden it's a game. You didn't watch 1 second, right? Because you didn't text me on it. You didn't tweet about it.
You want to know what, John?
It was 1 a.m. in the East Coast.
I watched 2.5 quarters before I fell asleep.
Did you really?
I did, because that game started late.
10:30 Eastern.
And I got I watched the whole first half, Me and Aaron's dad, we watched the whole first half.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Is Aaron's dad a big Idaho State guy, or is he more of an
no,
Aztec
he's
fan?
not.
Okay.
And then got to the third quarter, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm done." I tapped out.
Because it was probably like 1 a.m.
And when I woke up, I saw the final score. I was like,
Wow.
"Wait, what?"
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah.
It's not great,
And that's why a
guys.
lot of people, again, 14.5 point underdog to UCLA. People have counted them out. Hey, they didn't beat Idaho State, but I'm like, we've seen this game before
They've done this exact game for the last, I want to say, like decade.
against FCS opponents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where they look like average at best, and you're wondering, what the hell? Why can't you just blow them out? And I mean,
Yeah.
nothing will be as bad as the 6-0 Weber State game. Like nothing will ever be as bad as that.
That was the week before they beat UCLA.
I know. And so the only explanation to why I think they play bad against FCS teams, and I could be wrong, but if you go back and look at and you put it out there on social media, I think it was.
Did I?
After every time they played an FCS team, like the next week they play like a really good opponent or something.
So it's a little bit of a trap.
A little bit of a trap, a little bit of look ahead, and could get your guard down.
By the way, the Weber State game, while it was bad, remember within the last decade, they lost to Eastern Illinois at home, 40-19. Who was on that Eastern Illinois team? Was it like
Jimmy
Romo
Garoppolo?
or something? It was someone like ridiculous.
Jimmy Garoppolo?
Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Wait, Eastern Illinois?
It was definitely Jimmy G. It wouldn't have been Romo. That would have been like 30 years ago.
Tony Romo.
It was someone. Look,
it was Jimmy G.
Was it Jimmy G?
I think it was.
All right. On the other side, Dave Mason, sports brand manager at betonline.ag. He'll join us next. Help us. All right. Let's get you ready for the NFL. Dave Mason, betonline.ag, Chiefs Lions tonight. He'll have his opinions on some of the betting lines for this weekend coming up next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Indeed.com. Padres have an off day today. They start a road trip coming up tomorrow in Houston versus the Astros. Bad news for the Padres continues this year. Gary Sanchez is going to be out for the rest of the season with a broken wrist. And G-Man Choi, remember him? He has a Liz Frank injury as he hurt it in a rehab assignment. And tonight, NFL finally kicks off. The defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs take on the Detroit Lions. Travis Kelce, he is out tonight with a knee injury. Summer is winding down, but business needs keep ramping up. Check out Indeed, the all-in-one hiring solution that helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, we've got Aztec tickets to give away. Why don't we do it during Trainwreck Radio? Should we do that, Jim?
What if I said no?
All right, we're going to do it. If you said no, we're going to do it. So we'll do that coming up in about 15 minutes. Right now, the NFL season is here. Remarkably, it's back. Dave Mason, kind enough to join us from betonline.ag. He's their sports brand manager, and he joins us right now on San Diego Sports 760. Dave, we appreciate you joining us. And we're looking at this betting line that continues to tick down, right? For most of the offseason, Kansas City was something like a 6.5 or 7-point favorite. We know about Travis Kelce. We know about Chris Jones. What do you make of the movement and where the line sits right now?
Yeah, I mean, it just went down to 4. The other day it was 6.5, like you said. The news about Travis Kelce came out that he dinged up his knee in practice, and sharps are quick to act. They're always right on top of that news. So they hit it plus 6.5 and plus 6. So it kept dropping. Yesterday kind of settled at 4.5, and now just within the last hour, I guess it would move down to 4. Kelsey's not going to be playing tonight. So, overall, most of the action is on the Chiefs. So we're going to be Lions fans tonight. But like I said, some of that sharp action is on the Lions.
Yeah. Is there any value with the Lions money line tonight at plus 190?
Well, it's actually down to plus 175 here. It got hit big time. We took a $30,000 wager on the Lions.
That was Jim.
190.
I'm risking my whole life.
Was it you? Oh, thanks. I appreciate that action.
Yeah.
So it has dropped a little bit. So plus 190, I'd say there was value, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it also dropped not only because of that large wager, some other wagers, and also the spread ticking down because they are kind of correlated there.
Yeah.
So it's plus 165 now.
Dave Mason, betonline.ag is with us again. Chiefs Lions tonight. What do you make of this total? I think it's sitting around 53.5 right now.
Yeah, we're at 52.5.
Okay.
Actually, at 52. Most of the action is on the over. The over's getting bet big time. About 67% of the action is on the over. So, even though Kelsey's out, people are betting that over. So we'll be rooting for the under. There is sharp action on the over as well. So that's, usually the sharps are on the under, but not here. They're on the over 52, over 52.5 at minus 107. So we'll be rooting for the under pretty hard.
Dave, for you, which is a better bet? The Chiefs win the Super Bowl at 6-1 or Patrick Mahomes MVP at 6-1?
Oh, wow. It's I actually had Mahomes last year. I think I had a plus 950, which I was patting myself on the back. But man, I'd take the Chiefs at 6-1. I think if gun to head on both of those, I'd take the Chiefs at 6-1. But they're so highly correlated. I mean, I think that's good value. I mean, it's hard to say good value on a favorite, but I mean, just the way they're built, and you have Mahomes under center and 6-1. Sure. I mean, I'm an Eagles guy. I'm from Philly, so I'm still crying a little bit over the Super Bowl.
Dave Mason is with us right now from betonline.ag. We can get into the Eagles and NFC favorites in a moment, but to continue on the conversation with the Chiefs, I mean, I'm guessing I know where you're going here because the Chiefs, they're a favorite to win the Super Bowl, but they're not like the prohibitive, ridiculous, overwhelming favorite. So when someone asks you Chiefs or the field, what would you say?
Oh, field, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, the Chiefs are 6-1. Yeah. I mean, we really don't see those, New England Patriots 4-1 favorites anymore. I mean, it could happen in the future, but when they were just in their heyday, making the Super Bowl winning the Super Bowl every other year and making the Super Bowl every darn year, they were pretty much, 4-1 at the start of the season, which was just crazy. But yeah, I mean, there's so much, that AFC is tough. The NFC is a layup. It's a 3-horse race right now. But that NFC is, boy, that's tough. Or the AFC rather.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about that early in the show. AFC is it's loaded. Moving over to this weekend's games, Dave. A lot of favorites for the road teams. Who's your best bet for a road favorite this weekend?
My best bet for a road favorite. Wow. I mean, it's such a square play, but the public's pounded them. But I did get a better number, but I did take the Jacksonville Jaguars at minus 4.5. I'm very pro Jaguars this year, and the Colts are going to be dismal. So they visited the Colts, but that is up to 5.5 now. So it's moved a point in the last couple days. So but like I said, I mean that's the public's biggest bet of the weekend. And whenever I'm on the side of the biggest public bet, I get kind of nervous. But what the heck? It's week one. Who the heck knows?
All right. So Dave Mason, sports brand manager, betonline.ag, with us right now on John and Jim. So we just had this huge, not like a fight, but Jim was running through. We were talking about like the AFC, and he's running through contenders, and he mentioned the Jaguars, and I like freaked out. I'm like, there's no way the Jags are a legitimate contender in the AFC once we get into like the postseason to like take down a team like Kansas City, or are they, Dave? I mean, where would you rank the Jags among AFC favorites? Where would they stack up?
Right. I mean, you see what they did last year, and man, they really made some great progress last year. Plus, it helps that they play in that division, right? I mean, it's almost like the regular season is almost they should win that division outright. So, they do play in a brutal AFC conference, and right now they're 12-1 to win the AFC. But that being said, 7 teams are ahead of them. You got the Chiefs at 4-1, Bengals 5-1, Bills 5 plus 550, Dolphins 9-1, Jets 9-1, Ravens 10-1, Chargers 11-1, and then the Jaguars. So I mean, they're a contender. If they were in the NFC, they would be the 4th team there. But in the AFC, they're team number 8 as far as the odds are concerned.
Is there any team in the NFC besides the top 3 that you talked about that you could that you view as a potential dark horse, or is it like just a 3-team race and everybody else just don't even bother?
Right. Yeah, I think the team tonight, the Lions. If you're going to take a team outside the top 3, I think the Lions. After the top 3, you have the Seahawks at 10-1, Saints at 12-1. I'm not sold on them. Lions at 12-1, Vikings at 16-1. They had a great regular season last year as a win-loss perspective, but they were kind of fool's gold, man. They weren't, they were winning really close games. So, they got exposed in the playoffs. So, out of those teams, I like the Lions, man. They're trending up. I don't think they're not there yet. They probably need another year or two. But if I'm going to take any team outside the big 3, it's going to be the Lions. We'll see tonight. All
right. We had one other argument earlier, and this has nothing to do with betting. My argument was like Lions, Chiefs. I know it's the NFL. The number will be huge rating wise. I understand it, but I thought like you could go sexier with the Thursday opener. Like they're hosting the Bengals this year. They're hosting the Eagles. Of course, they're divisional games, right? You could run through. Right. What do you make of this specific matchup to open the season?
Yeah, I was a little surprised when that came out. I thought it, I don't know. I think all our brains are conditioned that the Lions are the LOL Lions. You know what I mean? But they are trending up, and I maybe that's what the NFL wanted to showcase on opening night. That hey, here's the best team in NFL against one of the up and comers. So. I was surprised when it came out. I thought it was going to be a little sexier, as you say, but I'm excited for this matchup. Admittedly, I don't watch a lot of Lions games, but so tonight I'm going to be really zeroed in. And like I said, I think they're the best team out of the big 3. So I'm going to be able to really watch them and concentrate on them instead of, a regular Sunday afternoon game where you got 100 different games on. And I really had a hard time keying in on one team.
Lions +4 tonight in Kansas City against the Super Bowl champs at betonline.ag. Dave Mason, appreciate you doing it today. Enjoy the start of the NFL season, and thanks for your time in San Diego.
Hey, thank you so much.
All right, Dave Mason, sports brand manager at betonline.ag, also known as Jim Russell's brother, because he agrees with Jim.
Well,
on like everything.
It's so funny because you were ripping the Jags. And
yes,
you were ripping
and
the
I admitted
Lions.
it to him.
I know.
I told him.
Dave Mason's like, you know what? Those 2 teams.
No, he agreed that the Lions was a little unconventional.
But you thought the Lions suck.
Call right now. I didn't say that. Call right now if you want 2 free tickets to San Diego State UCLA, you idiot. Not our callers, Jim. 844-570-1360. First 2 callers will be contestants for Trainwreck Radio. Sports trivia. We'll do that on the other side. Call right now. Great giveaway. San Diego State, UCLA, Saturday at 4:30. Tickets are available at goaztecs.com. Call 844-570-1360. Trainwreck Radio returns next. All right, Trainwreck Radio on the other side. We're giving away San Diego State, UCLA tickets. That's next. All right, John and Jim. Should I tell people what I'm doing coming up in 10 minutes, or is that a surprise?
You're ditching us.
I'm not ditching anyone.
Yeah, you
Remember,
are.
2 weeks ago, I went to do the show from a high school football game in Ramona, and all you did for 3 hours was make fun of me because I was doing the show from a press box in Ramona.
So
I then texted you yesterday. I'm like, do you want me to do the show from Modern Day Catholic?
I didn't. I was
Or
fine,
not.
and I never got this
Yeah,
text.
here
It
we
showed up
go.
randomly,
Oh, my
and I never responded to it. And so I got in today, and you're like, "Hey, by the way, good luck in the 5 p.m. hour." And I go,
Yeah,
"What?"
you're doing the 5 o'clock hour because we have Modern Day Catholic Lincoln tonight on Your View.
Oh, wow. So you ditched the John and Jim show for this.
That's correct.
Okay.
You act like this is some random. Lincoln is like a state champ. Modern Day Catholic was a state champ. They both were state champs
Are you
last
going to
year.
say other than the game?
Yeah.
Or other than, are you going to do your Lincoln thing, only make it a game instead of a play?
What do you mean?
Your Lincoln slang or saying you say all the time.
Oh, Mrs.
And-
Lincoln.
Other than
how
that,
the play
Mrs.
was.
I love
Yeah.
that idea.
Other than that, Miss Lincoln,
First
how's
of
the
all,
play?
honestly, let's be honest. What's a bigger game tonight? Lincoln Modern Day or Lions Chiefs? 70470 started with Tim.
Well, don't worry. While you're gone, I'll be discussing the recent Padres moves that Kevin Acey just reported on.
I was going to say, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Okay. You'll share that coming up at 5 o'clock?
We'll talk about that. 5 o'clock, yes.
5 o'clock.
Even though the move's already out.
What gets a better number tonight? Lincoln Modern Day or Chiefs Lions?
I think the World Series of Poker beats out everything.
Listen to Jim, man. So anti San Diego high school athletics.
Oh, no, I take that back. The U.S. Open is going to just destroy everything.
Let's play.
All right, 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants, we have Nick and Eric. Nick, you called in first, so you have your choice of John or Jim. Who do you want to go with?
I'll take John.
Smart.
Do you know who picked you?
I do.
Who?
Nick.
Wow, you got so lucky
No,
there.
I didn't.
You got
I
so
knew it was
lucky.
Nick.
Eric, you get me, all right?
Sounds good.
All right.
Can't be too lucky. It's a 50-50 chance.
True.
Yeah.
True. But he did get lucky. Brent, what's today's question of the day?
All right, guys. In anticipation of the big Chiefs Lions game tonight,
There you go.
can you name the 8 quarterbacks in Chiefs history that have thrown for 10,000 yards or more? So we're looking for Chiefs quarterbacks that have thrown more than 10,000 yards.
All right.
That's a good question.
I like this question. Eric, you are up first. What is your first guess? You do have your lifeline if you choose to use it.
How about Len Dawson?
Len Dawson to start. I like it.
Was not going to be the first guess that I would have taken, but okay. Good job.
On the list.
Nick, you're up next. What is your first guess? You do have your lifeline if you choose to use it.
Gosh, I'll have to go with a lifeline right off the bat.
Oh.
Off the bat, lifeline? Well, I'll give you their current quarterback.
He's pretty good.
Patrick Mahomes.
I'll take it.
On the list.
He's like, dang it.
Dude, he's going to have so many yards. Like, you're going to look at the Chiefs' all-time leaders, and he's going to be like 50,000 yards above everyone.
Yes.
He's like 25.
Eric, you're up next. What's your second guess? You do have your lifeline if you want to use it.
How about Alex Smith?
Great guess.
Yep, it is. Yep.
Nick, you're up next. What you got? You don't have
Gets
your lifeline
harder now.
Yeah, it gets
right?
harder now. What's your next guess, man? Are you there?
He's there.
Nick?
5 seconds.
Nick? I feel like he left.
No, he didn't leave.
I can't hear him. He's like
What'd you
breaking
say?
up. What'd you say?
I got no guesses right now.
No guesses.
No guesses. All right. Eric, you could walk this off here with the correct guess. You do have your lifeline if you choose to use it. What do you got?
How about Trent Green?
Trent Green, great
For
guess.
the win.
Boom.
Wow, impressive.
That was gonna be my lifeline right there.
Eric, the Chiefs fan. He could be our Chiefs insider.
We had a Chiefs
Move
insider.
over, Sammy.
Yeah.
Just
Sammy.
kidding. Sammy, if you're
JK.
listening, we'd love to have you as our Chiefs
Yeah,
insider.
please, Sammy, don't hate us.
Yeah.
All right, what did Eric win?
Well, no, hold on. I remember my first time doing this show. You haven't been here in a week. Who else was on the list?
All right, Len Dawson, the guy that Jim said he wouldn't have picked. He's their
Who's
number one
Yeah.
passer of all time.
Yeah.
Then Mahomes is number 2. Trent Green was 3. Alex Smith is 4. Bill Kenny is 5.
Course.
Steve DeBerg is 6.
The Berg.
Mike Livingston was 7. And then Elvis Gerbach was 8.
Wow. There's
Then
an name
Matt
from the
Castle
past.
just missed it. by like
Gerbach.
500 yards.
All right, congratulations, because you have won, Eric, you have won 2 tickets to Saturday. San Diego State, UCLA. Tickets are available right now at goaztecs.com. 4:30 kick. Our pregame coverage on San Diego Sports 760 will begin at 2:30. On the other side, a lot of Jim Russell. Padres have made moves. He will update you on what those moves were. Plus, Jim's back page is still ahead. Also, another giveaway in the 5 o'clock hour Jim will share with you. Stay with us. Hour 3. He doesn't even know what it is. Hour 3, John and Jim next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Indeed.com. Padres, they have an off day today. They'll take on the Houston Astros. They start their road trip tomorrow night in Houston. A couple moves for the Padres. Gary Sanchez has been placed on the IL with a fractured wrist. Also, Ji-Man Choi broke his foot. He has a Liz Frank injury. His season is also over. We'll talk about this coming up next. But the Padres are recalling Jurickson Profar and Eggy Rosario to the active roster for tomorrow's game. The NFL kicks off tonight. Chiefs open up the season at home, defending champions versus the Detroit Lions. Travis Kelce, he is out tonight with a bum knee. Summer is winding down, but business needs keep ramping up. Check out Indeed, the all-in-one hiring solution that helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply. All right, hour 3, John and Jim. John has left us. He has gone to do a high school football game, so John will be out for the remainder hour of the show. Me and Brent holding down the fort till 6 p.m. Football finally kicks off 5:20. Chiefs, Lions. I think Brent told me as he walked in today. What'd you say, Brent?
I've never been looking so forward to a Detroit Lions game in my life.
Right. You've never been more excited for a Detroit Lions game in your entire life. And being a Bears fan, the Lions,
I'm just ready for football to start.
Just ready for football. I'm 100% with you. I just want football to kick off right now, especially with the downer of this Padres season. I just want something to feel good about again.
It's a palate cleanser.
It is a massive, massive palate cleanser with the NFL kicking off. I know there's not an NFL team in San Diego. Breaking news, Jim Fax right there. But still, the NFL season kicking off after just watching this freaking Padres team just all year underachieve. It is an exciting time. And this is the best time of the year. Like, we've had this discussion before, Brent, but what is your favorite time of the year for sports? Because for me, it's hard to beat like the October, because you got NFL, you got college football, going.
I would say probably November.
November?
Well, because there's that kind of a crossing point there in the fall where you'll have NFL football, college football, and the beginning of college basketball all at the same time.
Right.
So no matter what day of the week it is, there will be something that you can watch that's good. So that's probably my favorite time period.
Right. And then, baseball World Series in October, NBA's right around the corner. This is, the time of year. It's like, everything feels right again. Because if your baseball team, if they suck in the summer and that's the only thing you got, you need to get football season. Even if your team is bad at football, you have so many things to watch with fantasy football, with just if you bet, NFL. Even if your team's not good, you watch every Sunday, every Monday, every Thursday. It is a national sport. And so 5:20, we're about 15 minutes away from kickoff in Kansas City. So Kevin Acee just reported this about 10 minutes ago. The Padres are recalling Jurickson Profar and Eggy Rosario to the active roster as Gary Sanchez is being placed on the IL. They've also DFA'd Ben Gamel. If you remember, Ben Gamel had one moment this year where he played that one game where he flew into the stands and caught that ball in, I believe it was the third baseline or so. They released him, DFA'd him first time, and Jurickson Profar is back. And does that move the needle for you? Is that something that you are, if you're a Padres fan, you're going to want to see the remaining 20 games is, Jurickson Profar's back. Maybe if they had him for the whole year, things wouldn't be this bad. Or do you not care at all?
Oh, I'm super pumped for the Houston series now.
Oh yeah. This is must watch television with Jurickson Profar back in that clubhouse. Now I will say maybe it did matter that Jurickson Profar wasn't there not for the on-field play, but for the things behind the scenes because of how close he is with Fernando Tatis Jr., with how this was his first year back off suspension. I think Tatis has done a really good job dealing with. Nobody talks about that anymore, by the way. Like, nobody talks about Fernando Tatis Jr. and his suspension at all. Like, I don't hear it be talked nationally. Other fan bases, I don't hear it. I don't hear him getting booed like he did maybe the start of the season and other fan bases with other fan bases. Like, I just don't hear about it at all. Like, do you? I don't think we don't talk about it at all, Brent.
Well, me and John talked about it when you were gone.
Of course you did. Of course. Well, for me personally, I don't really hear or talk much about the Tatis suspension because I think he's done a good job, and I think that everybody kind of that's smart realizes that this guy is an immense talent. He wasn't taken, at least I hope, doesn't seem like he was using performance-enhancing substances to help his play. Now, it is a down year if you want to go that route. But, I just think Tatis is so special and he's so gifted that people look at him as a 24-year-old superstar that is having a down year, and he made a mistake.
Well, pretty much you said it. He made a mistake, and he did the crime and he did his time.
Yeah.
So pretty much, I think that's why it's not getting brought up again.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he was like a second-time offender or something like that, like Cano or one of those guys, then it's going to get brought up more often because there's more of a there's more pre-existing circumstances surrounding it. So I think as long as he just stays clean and just that just stays as his only mistake, I think it'll just be an afterthought. It's not going to be like Bonds or any of these guys where it's going to be the only thing anybody brings up about him, as long as this is the only incident that he has.
Does Glenn Otto move the needle for you, Brent?
Glenn Otto.
Does he move the needle for you?
No.
Is
that Otto from The Simpsons, Dad?
Do you even think that's a real person?
I don't know. You never can tell these days. It's probably a chat AI guy.
Well, he is actually a real person because today the Padres also claimed Glenn Otto, who was designated for assignment by the Texas Rangers. Shocker. AJ Preller picks up another rando from the Texas Rangers. Okay, whatever. Like, okay, it doesn't matter. It's fine. But going back to the Jerks and Profar thing, I mean, he was beloved in this clubhouse. We talk a lot about how this clubhouse this year has had problems.
Yeah, but they said the same stuff about stupid Hosmer too, and we didn't buy into that.
I know. And there people will talk about this clubhouse kind of being a leaderless ship. We've talked about it here on John and Jim.
I don't know. And plus, look at all the other, they brought in Cruz allegedly just because he was buddies with Tatis and it was supposed to make it easier for him.
Yeah.
They brought in, who's the other? They brought in a couple guys this year that were just like around the club that were pretty much just there because they were supposed to be tight with Tatis.
Right.
So
that worked out well.
Well, that's just, I guess my point is he had a big enough support group that if Jurickson wasn't there, he should have been able to cope.
Correct. Yeah. So anyway, it doesn't move the needle for me that Jurickson Profar is back. It's a nice little story, little member berries for Padres fans. Good for him.
I'm not like slamming Jurickson.
No. I mean, he got DFA'd, and of course, he got picked up by the Padres, and so. If you're fond of member berries, then there you go. You got Jurickson. Yeah, you get Jurickson Profar back. I did think it was interesting today too. There was an article, Brent, in the Athletic about we're staying on the topic of clubhouse, right? There was an article today written about Tommy Pham, and also being reported how the Padres were.
Well, it is fantasy football season.
It is fantasy football season. That was actually the title. It was.
Oh, was it?
It was along the lines of I'm paraphrasing here. Like Tommy Pham is more than just a guy who like bitch slapped Jock Peterson over a fantasy football event. Like he's viewed as a true clubhouse changer. He's viewed as a guy that isn't going to let people slack in a clubhouse, isn't going to take crap. Like he is going to make sure that everybody is in line in a clubhouse. And the Padres, I guess, were heavily rumored. And they're also heavily involved in trying to bring Tommy Pham back this year. Would it have helped I think this team was already down the path of failure, no matter what happened. I don't know if it would have helped, but it is interesting how they were also linked to bringing in Tommy Pham and how he is viewed as a beloved figure in a clubhouse. And you see a lot of fans here talking about, they didn't want Tommy Pham back because they think he's a loser. Like, now granted, do I think Tommy Pham had mistakes here in San Diego? Absolutely. But man, it just seemed like maybe that's some guy that this team 100% needed, because this clubhouse this year, regardless of what people say about it, just is off. It was off. It didn't feel right. And you get a couple more pieces in there that change the dynamic. Who knows?
Yeah, but when Pham was here, he wasn't doing any of that. He was causing problems all the time. Remember,
I know that's what I mean. It's like when he was here, it did not go well.
When he went after Ha-Seong Kim because they collided, and instead of just being like, "Oh crap, dude, I'm sorry, are you okay?" Instead, he just railed into him in the middle of the field, and dude doesn't even speak English, so it's like, why are you even yelling at him? He doesn't know what you're saying. But there's that, and then there's the whole stuff with the fighting the fan after the game that one time, and it's just he's more trouble than you cause. I don't get how that would be like a uniter in the clubhouse.
I don't know either, but it was interesting to see, like, oh, it's interesting. Like, hey, the Padres were looking to bring back Tommy Pham. They were heavily considering it. They were in on Tommy Pham. And then reading the article about how many former and current players, how they view Tommy Pham. And he's actually having a good year. Like, that's one thing that Tommy never got here, is he never had a good year because, one, he was never fully healthy. And two, he just dealt with a lot of crap that he couldn't control for himself, So I don't know. It was interesting, but it brings us back to the remaining 20 or so games of this year. And if you're a Padres fan, and I put this out on Twitter yesterday, like, why are you watching this team? Like, why are you watching this team? Is it because you want to see Blake Snell try to win the Cy Young? Is it because you want to watch Ha-Seong Kim play? I can't think of many more things why you'd want to watch this team play the remainder of this season.
Blake Snell and the Cy Young, and I don't know if you have tickets just to go eat tri-tip nachos, hang out, and
right.
That's pretty much it. Just go hang out and have fun at the ballpark for the last 2 weeks of the season, and
it goes to say that us talking about that on September 7th, like reasons why you should watch the Padres, is a big reason why that this season can't go without consequence. You cannot end this year just trying to gloss over this season as a one-off, as a, hey, there's no way we can be this quote unquote unlucky next season. That can't happen. After this big of a failure, you can't just view this season as a, well, didn't go our way, and there was a couple unlucky breaks here, and it kind of spiraled. So you know what? Let's just run it back and see what happens next year. That can't happen. That can't happen by any means necessary. And if it does, then I will lose my mind.
It just kind of shows you what kind of year they're having by, everyone's sending in, all their, favorite Padres moments from the season. None of them are involving Tatis.
Nope.
None of them are involving Bogarts.
Nope.
None of them are involving Manny.
Nope.
And none of them are involving Soto.
None of them.
Like, with the exception of when Tatis stole home like a month ago, that's the only mention of any of the big four that's on there. All the rest is Ha-Seong Kim, the already mentioned tri-tip nachos is a popular one on the YouTube chat. And, that's it. That should just tell us all we need to know about the results from the season, to where, everyone's favorite moment of the season had nothing to do with the alleged, big four players that were supposed to carry us into the postseason.
Yep. And that's the biggest reason why this team is where they are. That's the biggest reason why this team will finish under 500, is that the biggest moments this year had nothing to do, like you just said, Brent, that's a great point, had nothing to do with the main core four. And when you look at it that way, it's just a complete downer. It's just you go into this year and you look at this season and the highlight package of this year, it's going to be depressing. It's It's going to be just depressing to watch. But you hear a lot about okay, well, Jim, this team was just unlucky. This team just, a couple bad breaks, right? The one-run games, there's no way that they can be that bad one-run games next year. There's no way they can be, have a positive run differential and still be under 500. And there's no way that this team can have the best record, best ERA in baseball and have a 470 win percentage. No way. I don't view it as unlucky at all. I view it as a mentality that was wrong and off the whole year. I view it as a team that the approach was just all over the place. The consistency was all over the place. And for that's what you get. That's what you get when you don't have any of that. Will that change next year? I don't know, but you can't run it back. If you run it back, you're almost like setting yourself up for failure again. Now, could you get lucky and could you have a one-off season like you did last year? You could, but I don't know about you, Padres fans, but for me, I would want to see this team have consistency. I want to see this team be like the Braves every year. I want to see this team be like the Dodgers every year, right? The Houston Astros, okay? A team that consistently wins, not just guys one-offs here and there, and you're sitting there on your couch hoping and praying that this year is the one-off year.
I don't know. I guess for me, it's going to depend on who's buying the proverbial groceries next year.
Mm-hmm.
Because, are we going to actually... The last two off seasons, we've been like, okay, we need a first baseman, we need a center fielder, and we need a catcher. And the last two off seasons, we have not gotten a center fielder, a first baseman, or a catcher. We haven't addressed any of the things that we allegedly needed for the past 2 years. Instead, we just went out and got our seventh shortstop and everything else. So maybe we should just address the needs this year.
Maybe, but it goes to the point. It goes to like how can they do that? Because this team is so hamstrung going into this offseason that it's not just as easy as you say, Brent, to, hey, go get a center fielder. Hey, go get a first baseman. Go get a catcher, right? Like Gary Sanchez, for how great he did this season, isn't probably going to be taking a discount to come back. Okay? He's not going to be saying, oh, guys, I love it here, and I would take a 2-year deal for like $12 million a year. No problem. If I'm Gary, I'm looking for the most money I possibly can get, because who knows if he's going to get an opportunity again, and he might. But like, I'm trying to get a good sizable payday after the year I had, which was a good year for Gary Sanchez to do what he did. It was a good year. And to think that he's just going to come back on a 2-year, $12 million a year, I don't know about that. And even if that were the case, how the Padres going to be spending that much money? Without getting pitching and replacing a Blake Snell and replacing a Josh Hader, and I don't know, getting some bench pieces that is like 100% needed for this team. There's just so many freaking questions. 844-570-1360 if you want to weigh in. Let's go to line 3, Brent, and it's Dave. Dave, what's going on, man?
Hey, welcome back, Jimmy. Glad you have made it safe and sound.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Brent for stepping in, and you guys sound great.
Thank you. What's up, man?
Yep. Okay, so back to Fernando. I was one of those that was ready to ride him out on the rails last year at this time, and I have done a complete 180. I think he's done a masterful job of getting back into right field and doing his job. And not only that, but doing it to the point now to where he's got a reputation. You don't run on that arm. He is like a nuclear weapon. And I want to tell you real quick, I saw Dave Winfield. I was young enough to watch Dave Winfield come up in right field here. And I see a lot of Dave Winfield in Fernando. And Fernando has every opportunity to get better and be better than Dave Winfield if he keeps healthy. And thank God he kept healthy this year. That was one of his goals. Check mark on that one. I think it was unrealistic to expect him to do much more than he has coming off of 3 major surgeries. So, I think this is a bright spot for this team if we're looking for one. You've mentioned several others, but let's not forget, in perspective, where we were a year ago with Fernando versus where we are right now.
Thanks for the call, Dave. And I agree with you. Has his overall season and his numbers compared to his averages been good? No, it's been down across the board. But looking at what he dealt with and went through to come back and he's going to put up a 25-25 season. He could potentially put up a 30-30 year if he gets going here on the home runs. What's he got? 22-23 in the year? He's got 25 stolen bases. I mean, if he gets hot down the stretch, he could have a 30-30 year. And this was considered a massive down year for Tatis.
I wonder how much he's going to play though down the last 2 weeks of the stretch though, that he would get the stats. Because I have a feeling that they'll probably play somewhat normal. I don't want not minutes, but you know what I mean. They'll get the normal.
They'll give guys rest. They'll give guys rest
for this week, and then I think next week it's going to be, Tatis might play, the home games, and then
I think Tatis. It's not like a situation with Soto who's dealing with the hand, and it's not a situation like Manny dealing with an elbow. Tatis is healthy.
Yeah,
as healthy as you could be at this time of the year. I think he's going to play it out. He's got 23 homers on the year. He's got 25 stolen bases. Like, I said this. If this year is a down year for Tatis and he goes back to his norms, like, I completely put it on this year as his body's catching up to him because he hasn't played in a year. He's coming off of 3 major surgeries. The weight of the world on his shoulders because he got suspended. You look at this season as a one-off, and you hope that this isn't like the regular Tatis that you get from now on. Because if this is the regular Tatis you get from now on, then you got a problem. But you hope that this isn't. And his defense in right field, to Dave's point, has been stellar, phenomenal. He has turned into a real 5-tool play. Like, everywhere he is on the he's a threat anytime he has the ball in the outfield and there's a runner trying to take an extra base. That arm is something that everybody is afraid of. He still has the pop. He still has the speed. I think Tatis for what he's done this year, if you want to look at bright spots, like, he's not my brightest spot of the season. But yeah, I could argue that he's up there. It's been it's just been a down year for him, but I don't think it's been a failure of a year like it has been for Machado and Bogarts.
Well, it's one of those things, like I said the other day, for Tatis numbers, yes, you could say this is a disappointing, year. But if you put his numbers on, half the other players in the league, they'd be like, yeah, I'll take that every day of the week and, twice on Sunday. So,
right. Would you agree, Brent, that Tatis has had a better year than Manny and Bogarts? Like, if you're giving a ranking of the 1 through 4, like, Soto for me is 1.
I don't think
Tatis, Manny, and Bogarts.
None of them have really stuck out, and that's
no. You have to rank. I know none of them really stuck out. I'm just saying of the big 4, who has had the best season? I would say Tatis definitely has had a better. Machado for me has had a horrible season. Same thing with Bogarts.
Best season, because none of them have really had a good season, but. Yeah, just because he stayed healthy and Manny missed some time, and I don't. Yeah, I'd probably say if I had to pick one of them, I'd say, yeah, it was him. But I thought all 4 of them were disappointing this season.
Oh yeah, all 4 of them disappointing. It's on their shoulders. The big reasons why this team is where they're at is partly due to the big 4 having down years across the board. All right, NFL has finally kicked off. Thank goodness. Coming up next.
And it's already 27-0 Chiefs. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, 30 seconds in the game. No, the Lions have the ball. They're driving. This is like the greatest thing that's ever happened in ever. All right, coming up next, if you missed it, Bryce Miller. He joined the show earlier today. Bob Melvin gave him a shout out after yesterday's game, even though, they lost 5-1. But Bryce Miller wrote an article about who the real MVP of this Padres season is. If you missed Bryce, you'll hear that coming up next. All right, coming up next, if you missed it earlier in the show, Bryce Miller joined us to talk about this Padres season and who the real MVP is this year for the team. You'll hear that conversation coming up next. All right, this update's brought to you by Indeed.com. Padres news of the day. Kevin Acey is reporting that the Padres will call up Jerkson Profar and Eggy Rosario to the active roster tomorrow for their road trip starting off in Houston because Gary Sanchez has gone on the IL with a fractured wrist. NFL news of the day, and this thing just broke as the Chiefs took the field against the Lions. Joe Burrow has reached an agreement with the Bengals on a 5-year, $275 million extension that includes $219 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid player in NFL history.
I think his leg's okay.
I think his leg is completely fine. Summer is winding down, but business needs keep ramping up. Check out Indeed, their all-in-one hiring solution that helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply. All right, John and Jim. On a Thursday, John is going to kill me because I didn't give him back his charging cord. If you know, you know. If you listen to the show, the big thing is I never have a charging cord. And I always use John's. And I'm sure he's listening right now, and he's probably cussing me out.
That's okay. You can put it on your wedding registry.
I can, yeah. You know, speaking of
a couple of them and get one for your car and one for here. So when you lose it.
Right. So I have his cord, and he's on his way to call a high school football game. He's not coming back, so he might need this tonight, and he's going to kill me.
You can use J-Riff's cord.
That's what, yeah. Just use J-Riff's cord, John. It's totally fine. Just use his cord. It's okay. Speaking of wedding registry, before we get to Bryce Miller, we got this random wedding registry like item sent to us the other day, and we didn't even put a website up yet. Like Erin's done a website, and she hasn't like released it to anybody. But for some reason, we got a bunch of like pots and pans we got plates and bowls and things yesterday. It was like very random. And if that's anything to come for a wedding registry, I love it. because you just get a bunch of stuff that you don't want to buy, but you need it, which is great. I love weddings.
That's a gym fact. That's how weddings work.
Yes, it is a
You
gym
know, you
fact.
put down stuff that you want, and then people buy it for you.
That is, yeah. All right. Bryce Miller joined us earlier in the show. He was shouted out yesterday by Bob Melvin for the article he wrote talking about the Padres MVP. Bryce joined us earlier, talked about who that is.
Let's actually start with what Bob Melvin said post-game. I know you've heard it. He was asked about, I don't even know how it came up, but he basically was like, Bryce Miller wrote about the MVP of the team, and it's the Padres fans, and Bryce was 100% right. What was your reaction to what Bob Melvin said, and why did you go down that path in terms of Padres fans this year?
Well, he had sent me a note. He texted me about it after I wrote it. I didn't know it was going to be, a double feature, and he was going to mention it in a live post game, but which was nice of him. But I think the transition was him talking about, the attendance record, and there's still a homestand left, and just the reaction of Padre fans, given what the reality is and the win-loss standings, has been remarkable. Some of that, you buy season tickets and you're stuck at that point for this season, and you've got to make a choice about whether to use them or not. And they had to cap season tickets, and there was just unprecedented support given the team that was put together, the NLCS run last year. But that doesn't explain what the fans have done and how they've showed up and the ways that they have continued to support the team in the last month, especially given as it's become more clear that this team is not going anywhere in the postseason. It's just one of those that, San Diego has a reputation that, is it a fickle city in a sports sense? Is it cursed in a sports sense? Will people find anything else to do other than support these teams? And I think it showed when there's, when you invest, when there are expectations, when there's real effort to win, the city decided to support these Padres, and they did it in a huge way.
They absolutely did. Yeah, the fans this year, regardless of how this team has played, has showed up in a huge way. So, the closer we get to this thing officially being over this year for the Padres, the big questions now, Bryce, so how are they going to fix this, and what changes need to be made? Because you can't have a year this year with the expectations and the money that was spent and not make major changes. But I do feel like, Bryce, there's a part of me that thinks that potentially there might not be any major changes, and they could potentially try and quote unquote run this back. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question, right? What do they do? What do they not do? In some ways, we keep, it's a circular topic that we keep talking around and come right back to the beginning. It's the kind of chase your tail thing. They are limited with the contracts, the size of the contracts and the length of those contracts to what they can do in some ways with a core group of players in their lineup, but also what that might inhibit their ability to do with other players in terms of trying to lengthen that lineup. I think they learned that you can't buy a championship. You can't buy a championship with four guys. At the top of the lineup, you've got to have guys that can help you produce runs in the 6-hole, the 7-hole, the 8-hole. And so that was a tough lesson that the Padres learned this season. But they've just got huge decisions to make. What are they going to do with Juan Soto? He's got another season. He's a free agent. That's a potential huge contract that they would be adding. At the same time, they've got to make decisions about Josh Hader and Blake Snell. I was on the record at the trade deadline that they should have dealt Hader and potentially looked at a deal for Snell to try to fix some of these things you're talking about. They didn't go that route. But if they have Blake Snell, what does that look like in terms of the Juan Soto discussion? If they don't have Blake Snell, if they don't decide to try to, ink a huge contract that could be, approaching $500 million. I don't think the Padres would be smart to do that. Wouldn't be wise. I don't think they would. But I mean, that's what's on the table right now in terms of what Juan Soto turned down in Washington before he became a Padre. Are they in the discussion about Shohei Ohtani? I mean, they were before, and And he really considered San Diego the sales pitch that they put together. And that was back when there wasn't a universal DH, and it made no sense for Ohtani to go to a National League team. So you would think they'd be at least in a discussion there. So there were just too many open-ended things contract-wise that would, I'm not answering your question because I have no idea
Right.
what the next thing to do is. It's how they free up and deploy their money, and all those things are factors in that.
And Bryce, to follow up on the changes part of this, I know your feelings on Bob Melvin. Do you think AJ Preller deserves to be back next year?
Does he deserve to be back next year? I would say that a lot of people in baseball, I'm trying to change the voice so it's not me saying it, because when I say this, I want to say it in the column, and I want it to be me saying it in the newspaper. But this is year 9, and winning regular season, that full season over that time, essentially, when 2020 was, pandemic shortened, and there were a couple of huge misfires over the last 3 to 4 years. But there was also, a major run last year in the NLCS. I guess I would say it this way. I don't know how many general managers in baseball ever get this amount of time to produce at a winning level consistently, to win divisions, to consistently be in the playoffs. And, here we sit at year 9.
All right, Bryce Miller, columnist for the UT, with us right now on John and Jim. I also wanted to ask you, Bryce, when I initially texted you, I was really enjoying your article that you wrote today on Keenan Christian, who's trying to kind of shake the label of just a speed guy because he was a track star, and he's not just a guy that runs outside the tackles, but he's saying he's capable of running inside the tackles as well. He's got a really unique story, doesn't he? I mean, he went to SC, considered UCLA, is now facing the Bruins. He's back home in San Diego where he starred as a prep player. What type of opportunity is this week specifically for San Diego State's starting running back, Keenan Christian?
Well, I think it's a big one. He's a senior, and he still hasn't proved he can be the go-to guy at a program. He hasn't proved, even with that speed, that he can consistently be that breakaway guy. It just feels like there's a lot of proving for him to do. He's clearly got, a ton of talent. Just winning the 100 and the 200 of the California State meet is just a massive achievement. A state this big with the talent that exists, for him to do that is elite speed. But at the same time, he never really got on track at USC. It's early on here, but, he hasn't yet, in a game yet here shown that he can be that back who, is the huge scoring threat that everybody thought he could be right out of high school. He's got a lot to prove. I was surprised. I didn't realize how close he was going to UCLA. I asked him to kind of break that down. He did want to stay close to home. He wasn't really looking at those offers, Alabama, Notre Dame. He had a ton of, elite programs that were looking for him, but he really wanted to stay closer to home than that. But he said it was a 50-50, basically a coin flip. Said he decided when he got to USC and just felt a little more comfortable with teammates there. But otherwise, he very easily could have been at UCLA. And he's had a couple of games against them when he was at USC. Didn't do anything of huge significance in either of those games. So this is a chance, as a senior, for him to make an impact, to be somebody who helps decide a game like this. And I think that's important too.
You mentioned a really interesting point. We'll let you go, Bryce. But the point that, hey, he wanted to stay home in this blessing and curse world of conference realignment. What could be advantageous for San Diego State is if you want to stay home, so to speak. Well, SC and UCLA are playing, in the Big Ten come 2024. And a lot of programs in the West are playing in the Big 12 or the Big 10 or even the ACC in 2024. If you want to check out this article, it is in the UT. Speedy Aztecs running back Keenan Christian hunts for a breakout game against UCLA, a team he nearly played for. Bryce, thank you. We're thinking about you. Be well, and we'll do it again soon.
Thanks, Bryce.
Yep. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, that was Bryce Miller talking about the Padres MVP this year. Should AJ Preller be back, and also Aztecs football. All right, coming up next, we'll finish off the show with my back page. Oh, I've missed it. Coming up next. The return of my back page coming up next. All right, so like one of the biggest things in radio is like make sure you pay off your teases, right? Because we do teases all the time, like little behind the scenes. If you're out, like you got to pay off your teases. We teased this at 3:45 today, and we never talked about it. What did I lose coming back from Philadelphia or Jersey? So I get to the airport and we get our bags. I brought my golf bag with me, brought my golf clubs with me to Philly because we play golf. Dad's a big golfer, took me to his country club. It was awesome. Waiting. No golf clubs. The golf clubs just never made it on the plane. They got stuck in Philly.
But you at least know where they are.
I know where they are. I have a tracking number on it. They're supposed to be delivered tonight.
Oh, well, at least they didn't lose it.
No. They didn't lose it. But, you know, at the time, I'm like, oh, crap. These golf clubs, these are kind of expensive. And I also put some clothes in the bag too, right? Because I couldn't fit all of it in my bag. So, yeah, I thankfully, they found it pretty quickly. And I'm not an idiot. And I put a tag on my golf bag. So, yeah, my golf bag never made it on the plane last night. But thankfully, it should be returning to my house today. Crisis averted. I know everyone was worried. All right, Brent, let's get to it. See, if I were here yesterday, all we would have done on the back page is talk about Ahsoka. And I heard that you tried to.
He didn't want to do that.
You tried to, but John has no idea what Ahsoka is. Episode 5 next Tuesday should be absolutely cinema. Okay, so for the first time since 2020, while we're done,
be quick.
For the first time since 2020, Oreo is bringing back the red velvet cookie flavor.
Oh, nice.
It's been on a 3-year hiatus. Oreos will be bringing back. It's a fan favorite. Red velvet. The flavor will be returning to stores nationwide.
I like red velvet
this month. Also, Freddie Mercury's draft of Bohemian Rhapsody, written in pencil from 1974, sold on an auction for $1.7 million. Wild. All right, then I want to thank Bryce Miller. I want to thank, I guess, John, even though he left early. Thank you to Brent. Thank you to all of you for tuning in today. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 at Fair Play. Until then, make sure you stay locked in to the all-new, San Diego Sports 760. Not anymore. It's just a regular San Diego Sports 760. Talk to you guys tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.